Hawaii is often sold as the most perfect version of America. White beaches, blue ocean, tropical winds, and a life that feels like an endless vacation. But once we look deeper into its small map, the story becomes far more complex than a tourist postcard. What makes it interesting is that all of this exists on the same islands. The distance between a small paradise and a serious challenge can be only a few hours away, yet it feels like two completely different worlds. Among all the struggling small towns in Hawaii, Nanawale Estates is often seen as one of the bleakest. This small town on the Big Island is far from the image of Hawaii filled with luxury resorts and exotic beaches. Many roads in this area are narrow, full of potholes, and surrounded by dense tropical vegetation that makes some parts feel isolated. The median household income in Nanawale Estates is only around $24,000 per year. One of the main reasons many people move here is the very cheap land. But cheap property often comes with major consequences: limited jobs, limited access to facilities, and outdated infrastructure. Interestingly, Nanawale Estates is actually not too far from the active volcanic area of Kilauea. So beyond economic challenges, residents here also live with the threat of volcanic activity that can change at any time. Ferns may be filled with green tropical forest and the cool air of the Big Island, but behind its scenery, this small town faces many serious problems. This rural area is known for limited infrastructure and a very high unemployment rate, reaching around 17%, one of the highest in Hawaii. Its median household income is also relatively low compared with Hawaii's expensive cost of living. Many roads in Fern Acres are not well developed. When heavy rain falls, some areas can turn into muddy routes that are difficult to pass. Many homes here still use catchment water systems because modern utilities are not fully available. These conditions make daily life feel much harder than in more developed small towns in Hawaii. Fern Acres is also very remote. For work, major shopping, or full healthcare services, many residents have to travel quite far to Hilo. Hawaiian Ocean View is often considered one of the most remote and hardest small towns to live in across Hawaii. This town sits on the dry, windy southern side of the Big Island, far from Hawaii's main economic centers. The median household income in this area is relatively low, while the unemployment rate reaches around 16.5%, making it one of the highest in Hawaii. But after living there, many people realize that cheap property comes with another price: limited job access, limited health care, and long drives just for basic needs. Some parts of town even feel almost off-grid. Not all roads are well developed, and some homes stand in extremely remote lava fields. The strong winds and dry heat also make this area feel completely different from the green, tropical image of Hawaii. Orchidlands Estates is a classic example of how cheap land can trigger fast growth without enough infrastructure to support it. This small town on the Big Island grew quickly because many people were looking for affordable property in Hawaii, but the living conditions are still far from ideal. One of the most common complaints from residents is the condition of the roads. Even regular vehicles can struggle to pass through some areas after bad weather. Utility infrastructure is also not fully modern across the whole area, so quality of life can vary greatly depending on where a home is located. Ironically, this town sits on an island with one of the highest costs of living in America, yet it is known as a place people move to when they can no longer afford homes in more developed parts of Hawaii. Eden Rock has a name that sounds like a luxury tropical area, but the reality is very different. This small town on the Big Island is known for limited infrastructure, a weak economy, and a fairly harsh rural atmosphere. The median household income in this area is only around $46,000, far below Hawaii's average, while local job opportunities are also very limited. Like many other affordable communities on the Big Island, some homes here still depend on catchment water systems because modern utilities are not fully available everywhere. The town grew because relatively cheap land attracted many people who could not afford homes on Oahu or Maui. But cheap property often means residents must accept limited facilities and distant access to healthcare. Ainaloa is one of the small towns on the Big Island that has grown very quickly because of cheap land, but that growth has not always been matched by proper development. Many people move to Ainaloa because they can no longer afford property in more expensive parts of Hawaii. As a result, the town has grown into a large community with a mix of fairly serious economic challenges. The median household income in Ainaloa is around $51,000, still quite low compared with Hawaii's high cost of living. Its unemployment rate is also higher than in many other small towns in the state. What makes it interesting is that this area sits fairly close to Big Island volcanic activity. So beyond economic and infrastructure challenges, residents here also live with the awareness that the island's natural forces can change at any time. Pahoa may be one of the most unique and controversial small towns in Hawaii. On one hand, the town has a strong arts community, a distinctive bohemian atmosphere, and a small center filled with local cafes, galleries, and unusual shops. But on the other hand, Pahoa continues to live under the shadow of Kilauea's volcanic activity, which has drastically changed this region before. The major eruption in 2018 became a huge turning point for Pahoa and the surrounding area. Lava destroyed many homes, roads, and neighborhoods in Lower Puna. The impact is still felt today, both economically and psychologically. Many residents lost their property, while some small businesses struggled to fully recover after the disaster. Mountain View sounds like the name of a comfortable and peaceful mountain town. But behind its beautiful nature, Mountain View faces very real economic and infrastructure challenges. This small town on the Big Island is still highly rural, with many areas that feel remote and far from Hawaii's main activity centers. Mountain View is also one of the rainier areas on the Big Island, so its atmosphere feels much darker and wetter than the sunny beach image tourists usually know. Even so, many people are still attracted to living here because housing is relatively cheaper and the natural surroundings feel wild and quiet. But for many residents, the remoteness, limited jobs, and lack of facilities still make Mountain View a fairly difficult small town to live in within Hawaii. Discovery Harbor is a remote small town at the southern tip of the Big Island that often feels more like a quiet retirement community than a typical tropical Hawaiian town. The area is actually fairly calm and does not have crime levels as high as some other towns on this list. But its main problem is isolation and limited modern facilities. This town is far from Hawaii's main economic centers. For work, major hospital access, or even certain shopping needs, residents often have to drive a long distance. Local job opportunities are also very limited. So many residents are retirees or people who work remotely. Interestingly, Discovery Harbor is near South Point, the southernmost point in the United States. This area is known for dramatic cliffs and extremely strong winds almost all year. This small town sits along the route between Hilo and the volcanic Puna area, giving it the feel of a rural community slowly growing in the middle of Hawaii's tropical forest. Kurtistown also has an interesting history. In the early 20th century, the area developed as a community for sugar industry workers and the Big Island Railroad. But after Hawaii's plantation industry declined, its economic growth slowed as well, and the town became a regular rural residential area. Overall, Kurtistown still faces challenges like remoteness and a not especially strong economy. But its environment is relatively calmer, it is not as heavily affected by crime, and it does not have infrastructure conditions as rough as some other towns on this list. On the same island, not far from those areas, another world exists with a different rhythm. The roads become cleaner, access becomes easier, and quality of life slowly rises along with stronger economic stability and a better managed environment. Hawaii is unique. Just a few hours can separate sharply different living conditions, from places with constant limitations to places that feel almost perfect. Eleele is a small town on the west side of Kauai that often feels like a transition between Hawaii's old sugar industry past and a quieter modern life. Its atmosphere is more suburban rural, not too busy, not too touristy, and mostly shaped by a local community living at a calm pace. The median household income sits in the middle range by Hawaii standards, but it is still below the island's elite areas. For daily life, Eleele is fairly comfortable for a small town in Hawaii. Access to Kauai's main centers is relatively easy, so residents can still reach jobs, hospitals, and shopping areas without living somewhere too crowded. But compared with the best towns in Hawaii, Eleele does not stand out as much in terms of iconic scenery or world-class tourist appeal. Hawi is a small town at the northern tip of the Big Island with a very different character from many other places in Hawaii. Today, Hawi is known as a quiet town with a bohemian feel. Its main street is filled with small art galleries, local cafes, and creative shops that give it a more classic, laid-back Hawaii atmosphere. Many people come here not for luxury, but for a peaceful mood far from the noise of bigger places like Honolulu or the major resorts of Maui. Economically, Hawi is not especially strong. Jobs are limited, and many residents work in tourism, the arts, or have to travel to larger towns like Waimea for work and services. Median income is also not as high as Hawaii's elite towns, but the cost of living tends to be lower than in the main tourist areas. Lanai City is the only true small town on the island of Lanai, and it often feels like an older version of Hawaii, almost untouched by major modernization. The town sits in the island's central uplands, surrounded by cook pine trees and cool air that contrasts with Hawaii's usual tropical beach image. Historically, Lanai City grew as the center of Dole Food Company's massive pineapple plantation, back when almost the entire island economy was dominated by that industry. Traces of that era are still visible in the simple town layout, small streets, and design that feels more functional than decorative. Today, Lanai City is known for being very quiet, sometimes too quiet for some people. There are no traffic lights, the population is small, and commercial activity is limited. Many residents live at a slow pace, with a fairly close-knit community because of the small population. Captain Cook is a small town on the slopes of Kona, on the Big Island. known for its green, quiet, and deeply rural atmosphere. The area actually has beautiful scenery, coffee hills, tropical valleys, and fairly easy access to the Kona coastline. But the pace of life is much slower than in Hawaii's more famous tourist areas. Many residents work in the Kona coffee industry, small-scale farming, or travel to Kailua Kona for better jobs and more complete services. The median income is fairly stable, but not as high as elite areas on Oahu or Kauai. One of Captain Cook's strongest traits is its identity as a center of Kona coffee culture. Many small coffee farms are located in this area, and the agricultural atmosphere is still very strong. This gives the town a unique character, a mix of rural farming community and residential area on the edge of Kona. Kaaawa is a small coastal town on windward Oahu that looks like one of the most cinematic pieces of Hawaii. On one side, there is the wide and calm Pacific Ocean, and on the other, the dramatic green Koolau Mountains rise above the town. In terms of quality of life, Kaaawa is actually quite comfortable and safe. The environment is relatively quiet, far from the crowds of Honolulu, and the community is small, so it feels more private. Many people who live here choose Kaaawa because they want to stay close to nature, not because they need easy access to a big city. However, like many small towns on outer Oahu, its main challenges are limited facilities and local jobs. There is almost no major economic center inside Kaaawa itself, so residents usually have to drive quite far to Kaneohe or Honolulu for work, school, or more complete healthcare services. Holualoa is an artistic small town on the slopes of Kona on the Big Island, known as one of the most cultural and peaceful areas in the region. Unlike the crowded tourist coast of Kona, Holualoa sits a little higher in the hills, so the air is cooler, wetter, and often misty, creating a very distinct atmosphere. Economically, Holualoa is stable for a small town in Hawaii, though not as large as urban centers like Kailua Kona or Honolulu. What makes Holualoa interesting is its balance between rural life and an upscale touch. Many homes sit on land overlooking the Pacific Ocean with spectacular sunset views, making the area attractive to people looking for peace with a bit of luxury. Waimea is one of the most unique small towns on the Big Island because it does not look like typical tropical Hawaii. The town is widely known as the home of Parker Ranch, one of the largest and most historic cattle ranches in the United States. The influence of ranching is still strongly felt in Waimea's local culture, economy, and identity as Hawaii's version of a cowboy town. In terms of quality of life, Waimea is one of the more stable towns on the Big Island. Its schools are relatively good, the community is well established, and its median household income is over $100,000, higher than many other rural towns in Hawaii. Many middle-class to upper-middle-class local families choose Waimea because the environment is safe and more structured. Haleiwa is one of the most iconic small towns on Oahu, located on the North Shore, which is famous for giant waves and world-class surfing culture. This town feels very alive, especially when the big wave season arrives. Professional surfers from around the world gather on the North Shore, making Haleiwa a kind of global center for surfing culture. But outside that season, the pace of life becomes calm again, almost like a beach town moving slowly with the tide. In terms of quality of life, Haleiwa is quite good. The environment is relatively safe, the community is strong, and access to nature is incredible. Beaches, small rivers, and nearby hiking trails. Many people choose to live here because they want a mix of local Hawaiian life and access to nature that still feels very pure. Hanalei is one of the most beautiful small towns in all of Hawaii, often described as the postcard version of Kauai. Located on a crescent-shaped bay on Kauai's north shore, Hanalei is surrounded by dramatic green mountains, rice fields and small farms, and a calm beach where the waves change with the seasons. The atmosphere here is very relaxed and artistic. Its main street is small, filled with local shops, simple cafes, and art galleries that reflect its creative community. Many Hanalei residents are artists, surfers, or people who intentionally chose to live far from the fast pace of big cities. Life moves slowly here, and that is exactly the town's main appeal. In terms of quality of life, Hanalei ranks very high for peace, natural beauty, and a strong sense of community. Many people call it one of the most peaceful places in Hawaii. Princeville is located on Kauai's north shore and is often considered the peak of small-town luxury in Hawaii. The town sits on a cliff with direct views of the Pacific Ocean and the dramatic green valleys below. Many residential and resort areas here offer views that almost feel unreal. Waves, sunsets, and Kauai's mountains all in one frame. It is no surprise that Princeville is often seen as one of the most premium locations in all of Hawaii. Economically, Princeville is also very strong for a small town in Hawaii, with a median household income of around $102,000 per year, far above many rural areas in the state. In terms of quality of life, Princeville stands out for safety, cleanliness, and infrastructure. The roads are well maintained, resort facilities are complete, and the environment is carefully preserved. Many wealthy retirees, established professionals, and property investors choose to live here because it offers a rare combination of calm and luxury.